ladies and gentlemen. It's the Noobtoob Modcast, featuring Jammin' Slaver, Locke, and Sunflower.
Where the hell do we start on this game? What is it?
Well, the path is it even a game? I think we should define that, because from what I heard before I played it, it's not really so much of a game because there's no real objective. The idea is that you pick from one of 6 girls who are like supposedly Red Riding Hood, basically. Yeah. They're all like dressed in red. They're all named after shades of red apart from one of them. And the idea of the game is that you start off on this path, which goes straight through the forest, and at the end of it is Grandma's house. And at the very beginning of the game, you're given the instruction, go to Grandma's house, stay on the path. And you do that, you get into the end, and it says, you fail, idiot. Of course you're not supposed to stay on the path.
And did we all do that the first time?
I went straight to it.
I went straight to it too.
Yeah, of course you do. I mean, it's actually a good way of doing it, because it shows you what happens when you don't do any of the other stuff. But anyway, the idea behind the game is that you stray off the path, and you find like these objects in the wood which you can interact with, and depending on which girl you are, you can interact with different objects. Some objects can be interacted with more than one, and each time you interact with it, it kind of gets added to your basket, which is basically like your collection of memories. And by collecting different items throughout the wood, or finding them throughout the wood and interacting with them, it kind of unlocks other stuff at Grandma's house.
Yeah.
So when you finally get to Grandma's house, it does this kind of weird first-person view where you actually have to keep pressing a button to take each individual step. And the more things you've found, you'll start to notice them in Grandma's house. So that's the interesting thing. And it's very, very arty. It's very, very weird in that anytime you interact with something, the girl like does a little soliloquy about stuff. And they all have very, very distinct personalities. Like Robin is obviously the sort of innocent child.
Little girl. She's the
Ruby is like the goth girl who basically wants to kill herself, and she's like, I should start smoking. They say it shortens your life, that kind of thing. So they all have very interesting, different personalities, and it's quite interesting to see objects which more than one girl can interact with and see how they differently take it.
Yeah.
But the sort of focal point of each part of the game, or each time you play through the game, it's partially Grandma's house, but also partially your interactions with the wolf, who is in the forest in different places depending on the girl.
Yeah,
and that's very interesting because, as I say,
it's a very relative term, the wolf.
Yeah, so I think, as I said, the order in which you play it, I think it's best to play as Robin first, because for Robin, being effectively Red Riding Hood, it is literally a wolf. And then if basically the wolf, when you interact with it, or when you choose to interact with the wolf, that signals the end of your time playing as that girl, because you like go up to this thing, you interact with it in many, many different ways, and it's always different depending on the girl. And then once that's done, it like fades to black. You never really see exactly what happens, and you end up sort of on the path directly in front of Grandma's house, and your girl's like has her head down. It's raining very hard.
Sullen.
Occasionally, it's actually hard to see the girl, and then it sort of takes over control from you, like as you're walking towards the house, and she just slowly walks into the house and walks inside, and then you have Act 3 where you're walking through the house in first-person mode.
So that's yeah. I just find this game. I got this based on your guys' recommendation, and I had no idea what it was going into it, and I still don't think I haven't. Well, I kind of have an idea of what it is, but I was just so dumbfounded playing this game. I'll kind of go through my experience with it.
Yeah.
I picked. I think I picked. Who's the girl with the dress? Is it Rose?
What you mean? You mean the girl holding the rabbit in the house? Yeah, that's Rose. Yeah.
I picked Rose, and I went through. This was after I just walked straight to Grandma's house. So the first time I strayed off the path, I was walking around, and there's these little white flowers throughout the forest, and I was like, okay. Yeah. I went and picked one up. It said 1 out of 144. So I was like, okay, so that's kind of part of the game. It's got collectibles, sweet. But no, I was mistaken. That's just kind of a secondary part of the game. But I did find out, did you guys ever discover this, that when you're looking for items, if you get 5 of the white flowers, it kind of points you in the direction of one of the items?
Yeah, it took me a while to figure that out. But yeah, if you pick up enough of these flowers, it'll like have a very subtle little thing showing you where is the next item you can interact with in the forest.
Which
Yeah,
would
you
have
guys
helped.
found out a lot more about this game than I did. I was playing it wrong. That's all.
No. You cannot play this game wrong.
I certainly feel like I did.
I know.
wasn't able to
I don't think you can play this game wrong, and I'll tell you why after this. So yeah, Rose. I found these flowers, kind of picked up a couple items, made it to the playground, encountered the wolf, and then got to Act 3, and that was it. And I was like, "What the hell just happened?" I didn't see a wolf. I didn't know what happened. I was so confused to what the fuck is this game about? So then I got, after doing that, I thought it was like some adventure game, but after doing that, I with each subsequent girl, I explored the path more and more and more, and got more and more items every time. And then it kind of dawned on me, I'm like, okay, this is super artsy, this is what they're going for, these are the themes, because to describe this game, I would call it artsy. It is the art style between the different acts and the girls and the themes in there and what happens, and there's a huge overlying theme of, I think we can all agree, of kind of murder and rape.
Yes.
I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure about that, because that is certainly part of it. But I think that the way that the wolf manifests itself in different ways, it isn't just about that sort of violence and that sort of thing. It's just about different ways in which people can stray off the path, as it were, and lose themselves in life.
That's a good summary of it. So as a game, it isn't really there for me, but as an art piece, it is full on. It made me think. Sunflower just twittering about it, saying it like pulled at all these different emotions. I feel the exact same way.
I felt some strange things.
Yeah. Tell me about your experience with it.
Well, I was playing it kind of like you guys were, except I kind of got a different experience. My run button didn't work on my keyboard. For whatever reason, I wasn't able to run. So I took a very slow walk, and it ended up with me feeling, eventually I got despair because I could not find my way back to the path.
The path actually, I'm fairly certain it disappears.
Yeah.
I don't think you can ever find your way back if you get a certain distance away from it.
That is a cool theme. They did that on purpose.
Well, and it was all based on that, what was happening to me, because I would be walking and walking and walking, and I would think I see the path in the distance, and I would get so elated and so happy and head towards it, and then finding out that it wasn't that, it was just even more despair. And
which I think is a very important part of it. It's all part of the symbolism of the game. If you had been able to run, you'd have found that the game actually doesn't want you to do that.
No.
Because if you run for more than a couple of seconds, the camera angles up, everything gets very dark, the flowers disappear. And you basically it's very, very, very hard to actually find things when you're running. So the game it's another part of the metaphor. Is that
exactly.
If you rush through life, you tend to miss the finer details. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I think it's a very, very great experience that people should try out.
And I paid $10 for it. I got it from the developer's website.
Yeah.
Did you guys get yours through Steam?
Yeah.
I got mine through Steam through the indie developers.
$8.99. It may still be $8.99 at this moment. I don't know.
I would definitely. I can give this a recommendation. It's not going to be for everybody. It is a very artsy game, but I played it. It's cheaper than a movie, and I got more enjoyment out of it than a lot of movies. So
definitely worth experiencing.
Yeah, it's definitely an experience. And one last thing I'll just mention before we finish off with this is that if you walk all the way to Grandma's house and kind of walk around the back, it turns to night, and everything is so dark, and you can still go back to the path and interact with the whole game while in nighttime form. So that might be something to go add some replay value, because it adds a lot of effect. Some of the different things interact differently, and you'll just get faint spots of light around items or flowers. So
sounds terrifying.
I mean, then there's the epilogue, which is basically really, really browbeating and very dark and very rainy stuff. So it's cool. I enjoyed that as well.
Well, the thing is, when you go and try to play this game, if you're interested in what we've been saying about it, you gotta take a different approach to it. Just make sure you take that approach that you're in it for an experience and not necessarily a collect-a-thon or you must beat the game, things like that. Go into it with the right mindset and you'll appreciate it a hell of a lot more.